Good evening and welcome to this session of RunsWktsOvers, where tonight we're going to focus on pairs cricket scoring. Now, pairs cricket is usually, but not always, played by juniors. So in the chat window we've already had somebody tell us that their teams play it with adults, but I've only ever come across it with juniors. So I'm hoping that we have a few additional people in the audience tonight. I'm hoping we have some mums and dads of junior players, because in that sort of cricket they always get roped in and given the scorebook and never really given any tuition on how to do it. So hopefully this session will help those people in that position. And it's hopefully as well of interest to people who score other types of cricket. Now, I will confess that I haven't scored very much of this type of cricket myself, but I have had a lot of help and advice in putting this session together. And in particular, I would like to thank Alison Bradnock, I've seen in the chat window already. So thank you, Alison, who's put together a match narrative that we're going to score along with tonight. So we don't have a video to run for this, but we have a narrative of a game that took place in 2014, which you will see on the screen in a moment. And we're going to follow that narrative through. And tonight we're going to score it on paper. Now, it is possible to score pairs cricket on the Play Cricket Scorer app. You can't score it on PCS Pro because when a batsman is out in pairs, they carry on batting, and I will explain the regulations in a moment. But generally, they carry on batting, and it's therefore not possible for somebody who's out to continue in normal cricket scoring software. But the PCS app has been adapted to cater for this type of cricket. But we're not going to look at that tonight, and that has a few difficulties in it itself that we will focus on another night if people are interested. So tonight we're going to be scoring on paper, and in the blurb at the bottom of all that writing underneath the video for this session, there was a link to download and print a pairs score sheet, and it's that score sheet that I'm going to be using tonight. That's also been supplied by Alison, so thank you very much, Alison. And so if you're going to score along with us, which I hope you are tonight, then you are going to need either that score sheet or one of your own. It's up to you which one you use. But I'm going to be using the one that I put there for download that Alison has supplied. And Alison has also scored the model answer for us that you'll see at the end. And it's beautifully done. So thank you, Alison. So if you do want to score along, please make sure you've downloaded the blank score sheet, printed at least one off. I would recommend two so that you can do the second innings on your own afterwards. And I'm going to be using coloured pens. It's quite similar to a box style score sheet. So I'm going to be using coloured pens, one colour for each bowler. And in pairs cricket, certainly junior pairs cricket, it's traditional for all the players apart from the wicket keeper to bowl. And they do tonight. We're playing 8-a-side tonight, so you will need 7 different coloured pens. So if you need to go and get those, then that's okay, because I'm going to explain the regulations before we get scoring. You can see on the screen, hopefully in a moment, the score sheet that we will be using. So that's what you should get if you download and print the blank one. So one thing with pair scoring is that there isn't really a standard set of regulations. And pairs cricket often have a different number of players per side, not with the two teams that are playing, but from sort of competition to competition. You might get 6-a-side, 8-a-side, 10-a-side, and they bat together for different amounts of overs. Plus, it's different in different competitions what happens when a wicket falls. So I will try and explain the regulations that we're going to use tonight and try and tell you where that might differ. So for our match regulations, we are playing 8-a-side. The game consists of 1 innings per side, and that innings is of 16 overs duration. Now, because they're played usually by juniors, wides and nobles are not re-bowled until the last over, because a lot of the junior players are learning their craft, and there are usually a lot of wides. So in order to actually get the game through on time, wides and nobles are not re-bowled, but they're usually worth more than 1, and in our match tonight they're worth 2. So every wide and noble worth 2. They don't get re-bowled until the last over, and that's to stop somebody from deliberately bowling wide so that you can't score runs off it. Now the batting side bats in pairs, so you divide the team into pairs, and every pair bats together for 4 overs. So in our game they will change over at the end of over 4, 8 and 12. And we're going to play the regulation where each wicket results in 5 runs being deducted from the total, and that's how pairs always used to be played. Every time a wicket fell, runs were deducted from the score. So you need to start with a score, otherwise you could end up in the minus very quickly. So each team will start its innings with a score of 200. Now in recent times, the ECB have felt that it's a little unfair, or it's a little harsh on some of the players when they've only scored a few runs themselves and lost a few wickets themselves, to come off the field with a minus score. So a change to the regulations now sees a lot of pairs games where instead of losing 5 runs for every wicket, you add 5 runs to the bowling side. So you store them up until the end, and then you just add them on to the total of the opposition after they've batted. But we're playing the original rules where we take 5 runs off each wicket, so therefore we're starting with 200 runs. And in order to keep batsmen busy, so one batsman doesn't always hog all the action, the batsman will change ends at the fall of a wicket, regardless of whether or not they would normally. So in adult cricket you might swap over if there's a run out or a catch is taken, but with pairs cricket you change over at the fall of every wicket. You also change over at the end of an over, because generally in pairs cricket they bowl from one end, which just saves time, because a lot of the junior players are not used to setting fields and they're not used to finding their own fielding positions. So to save time, they stay in the same places and they bowl from one end, which means that the batsmen have to change ends at the end of an over. And again, to keep everybody in the game, each player on the fielding side must bowl, with the exception of the wicket-keeper, who may bowl if required, but it's not compulsory, and no player shall bowl more than 4 overs. Now, this is our team sheet. Now, in that blurb underneath the video, I did put Alison's narrative, so you may well have printed it off for yourself and be following it through. I will be putting the narrative on the screen over by over, so you don't need to print it off, but it was there in case anybody wanted to. So if you've printed off your score sheet and you're ready to go, could you fill out the titles at the top of your score sheet with what you see on the screen now? So we have Amberwell under 11s playing Monford under 11s at Amberwell Cricket Club. And the narrative says that it happened in July. Actually, it happened in 2014. It was the 7th of July 2014. I've put my titles in as today. So I've put them in as the 1st of July today. I've put myself and Alison as scorers because Alison certainly scored the original and I'm scoring this now. So you need to put yourself in there. And the toss was won by Monford, who elected to bat.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Are we playing that the batters don't change ends if there's a fall of wicket at the end of an over?
Yes.
There you go, Malcolm. There's your answer.
It's good to see all of you in the chat window, but also Malcolm and Steve Forecast I see in the chat window as well, and both of those have given me advice on pairs cricket along with Alison, so I'm very pleased to see them there in case there are questions that I can't answer, but hopefully there won't be any. So we should be ready to go. So hopefully now you should see, if we can see the score sheet as well as the team sheet. I've already filled my headings out. Now on this particular score sheet, we have near the top of the first batting section, we have a line that says team batting first or second. So I'm going to underline first because this is the first innings, and then it is Monford under 11s who are batting. So I'm writing in that space who the batting side are. Now I still have the team sheet on the screen for you, but don't worry about writing all those names down because we will take them as they come in and I will put the names on the screen for you. I will put the surnames on the screen for you, but I'll tell you the first names as well. But they're going to bat in pairs in the order that they're on the screen, so we can write in the opening pair and Sharman will take the first ball. So we can write those first two names in now. So we have Adam Sharman and Jasmine Skeeton. The opening bowler is Jack Aldrin. So I'm using pink for the opening bowler. So I'm going to write the opening bowler in the same colour that his details will go in. It's up to you whether or not you use colours, and it's up to you whether or not you do the names in colour as well as the detail. So most of the scoring in pairs is standard scoring, and some people use a linear sheet, some people use a sort of hybrid, and I will show you some alternative sheets at the end. But this score sheet is very similar to a box style, and that's how we'll be scoring with it tonight. So first ball, batsman run 1, no signal from the umpire. So it's a normal 1 run to the batsman, 1 in the bowling box. Now thankfully on this particular sheet both the batsman's area and the bowling boxes are nice and big. And because no balls and wides are not re-bowled, we know that we don't have to get more than 6 entries into that box for most of the overs. So we can write a reasonable size. And I've written the 1 run against the batsman quite large because you know that the most they're going to face is 4 overs. Now, the rest of the over is, it's all dots. There were no incidents or score. So to speed things up today, rather than read those out individually, we can just add them all in at once. But what I'm going to do is to write 3 dots in a row down the batting column, just to save on a little space. It looks a lot neater. I actually need to get 5 dots in there because there are 5 balls remaining in the over, and put those into the bowling box. Now, the eagle-eyed people amongst you will notice that I didn't cross 1 off the cumulative total. I'm likely to do that quite a lot tonight because I tend to score, if I'm on paper, in a linear style where there is no total to cross off. So that is an error. I do need to cross something off the cumulative total for the first run in the over. But you'll notice that the cumulative total starts at 201 rather than 1. So I will now cross that off. And we can do a normal end of over check. So that's 1 to the bowler, and there's an end of over score box down at the bottom. So the score is 201 because they started at 200. There are no wickets lost, so you can either write the 0 in or leave it blank, and it's bowler number 1. So very straightforward from that point of view to start us off. So over number 2 is bowled from the same end. We can't see that because we can't see the players. So the batsmen are switching ends, which means Sharman is back on strike and the bowler is Patrick Glenn. Two ends in Glenn. So our first ball, batsman run, but the umpire signals a boundary 4, so the run is ignored. So that is a 4 to Sharman. I'll try and remember to cross it off the cumulator. Same for the second delivery, another 4. Third delivery is a dot ball. Fourth delivery, another 4. Almost forgot. Now, because this 4 is going across the end of the row, you'll notice also, those of you not used to scoring on a box style book, that my first one, the single, went diagonal, but I'm crossing off runs horizontally when there is a multiple runs involved. So this multiple run goes across the end of the line and into the line below. So I'm going to extend my line out a little and curve it and bring it in on the next line, which just shows you that those are connected. Off the fifth ball we have a 2, forgot it again, and on the last ball we have a 2. So again, nothing different in this particular over. So we're going to total up the over 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 off that bowler. And down at our end of over, I've got the total of 217. Still no wickets lost, bowler number 2. So all very straightforward at the moment, just normal box style scoring. So over number 3, we're back to our first bowler, back to Aldrin. And this time, Skeeton is on strike because, as it would be at a normal end of over, the batsmen are changing ends instead of the bowler. And we can see that our first 3 balls, no incident or score. So we can just do another 3 dot balls. Now, our first difference, because we have a wicket coming up. So Skeeton is out caught, and our narrative tells us that the batsman change ends. So that's what happens every wicket. Now, I'm going to write in against the batsman a W in the same colour of the bowler. A nice big W. But in the how out column, because the batters carry on, we could have several ways of being out in the how out column. And with pairs cricket, all they're really interested in is the name of this YouTube channel, Runs, Wickets and Overs. That's where the emphasis is put, not on who took a catch, who effected a run out. And we need to score in the manner that the game wants. And sometimes scorers forget that, and they're too busy using all their knowledge and their skills, and they want to score in as much detail as possible. But you really need to score in the manner that the game that you're scoring requires. So we're just going to write caught or even C in the how out column. And if you look underneath the batting section, there is a legend for the wickets. So I'm going to use the legend that's in there, and it just says C for caught. So I'm just going to put a C in the how out column, but I am going to put a dot. Now it's up to you whether you break them up with a dot or not, but I'm going to break them up so that we can see they are individual instances of wickets. Now there is no fall of wicket section, because the fall of wicket section is for recording partnerships, but these people are batting in pairs, so the partnership information is not required. So therefore we don't need to record it. But I need to put a wicket in the bowling section, and I'm going to do that in black so that the wickets stand out. It's up to you. You can continue in the colour of the bowler, but I like to put mine in black to make them easy to find afterwards. And now that we've entered the wicket, the batsman change ends. So next ball we have Sharman on strike. And if we look at our narrative, ball 2.5, the batsman run and the umpire signals are 4. So we're back to Sharman for 4. 1, 2, 3. Again, that's going over the end of the line. And a dot ball for the last ball of the over. So in my bowling box, the bowler has taken 1 for 5, and at the end of over score, I make the end of over total 2-2-1. We have 1 wicket and it's bowler number 1. Now although we've lost 5 runs, we're not taking them off our cumulative total. We're not getting the Tipex out and actually removing them. We're going to make a note of them at the end. So don't worry about them now. We just keep on scoring. So over number 4. It's Patrick Glenn again. He's continuing, despite going for 16 off his first over. And that dot ball was faced by Aldrin at the end of the over, so it was faced by Sharman at the end of the over, so the batsman switch round and we have Skeeton on strike. So we have some singles. First ball is a single to Skeeton. Second ball is a single to Sharman. Third ball is a single to Skeeton. Try and train myself to do that accumulator every time. So we have Sharman on strike and The narrative says that Sharman is run out and therefore the batsman change ends. We don't need to know which end Sharman was going to. We would need to know if any runs were scored, if they were going for the second run, but it just says run out, so we're going to believe that there were no runs scored. So a W against Sharman. He was run out, so I'm using the legend that says RO for run out. I'm going to put a little dot to break them up. I'm moving to a black pen and I'm going to put an R in the bowling. Now you'll notice that that's inconsistent with what I put in the batting, but you just put the W in the batting to indicate how many wickets were lost. It does say at the top of that column, balls faced, runs scored and wickets lost. So we just need to know it's a wicket. But I don't want to put a W in the bowling because it's not a bowler's wicket. We're not giving the bowler credit. So I'm maintaining the R or a dot in the bowling. So they change ends, which means Skeeton is on strike. And the batsman run 2, the umpire signals a leg by. So I'm going to use triangles. Now you can use L's and B's, but this sheet has the symbols printed on them and it has the conventional circle and plus for a wide, but it has triangles pointing up and down for buys and leg buys. So I'm going to put a triangle facing down for leg buys. I'm going to put 2 in the leg buys column and a triangle facing down in the bowling. And I'm going to cross 2 triangles off on the accumulator. Now, if you want to put dots inside the triangles, you can. I don't, because you're not adding those runs onto the bowler or the batsman. So it just shows that the ball that was faced were leg buys of some description. I can check back because they're green leg buys, so I should be able to find the value of them in the leg buys. But we only need to know the value in that extras column, so I'm not going to put the dots in. You can do it if that's how you prefer to. You can use B's and L's if you prefer to. And on the last ball of the over, we have 2 runs, no signal, so 2 to Skeeton to finish the over. So let's do our normal end of over check first. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to add to the batsman. Still no wickets for the bowler. So 21 to the bowler's total. The score, I believe, is 2-2. I didn't cross the last 2 runs off. 2-8, hopefully. Do say in the chat window if you disagree with me. And the wickets lost, because we don't have a fall of wicket section, I need to look to see how many wickets fell in this over and add those to the previous total. So because I've written them in black, they stand out nicely. So there was 1 wicket in there. I can add it to the one I've got in my end of over column. So that's 2, it was bowler number 2. And if I glance up at the how out column, I can check that there are 2 entries in there in the wickets as well. So that just tallies up the wickets for me. Now, it's the end of over 4, so we've got a lot of changes coming up. This is where our 2 batsmen now leave the field. They've batted for 4 overs each. So they're going to leave the field and be replaced by 2 others. And normally, when a player is out, you would write some lines or chevrons at the end of a batsman's innings. You don't necessarily need to do that here because we're going to add the next pair in, so we'll be writing always on these 2 lines. We're unlikely to make a mistake, but if you want to, you can draw a line across the end. It's up to you. You can just leave that and not draw the line, or put the lines in to say that's when their innings ended. So we need to add up how many runs they scored. 1, 5, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21, 22 I make Sharman. And you've got a column for wickets lost. So if you look in the how out column, that player was out once. And you can double check that against how many Ws you've got along the line, the batting line. So wickets 1. And the same for Skeeton. I make Skeeton having made 4 runs and 1 wicket. Now that's much nicer to put it in there that the batsman scored 4. If they come off and look at their column and say how many runs did I get, what you don't want to be saying, not really, is, well, -1, because there's your -5 because of the wicket, so they scored -1. We'd like their batting totals to be accurate into what they actually scored. So then what we need to know is who are the new players. So we have 2 new players, Jaden Armstrong, who will take strike, and Matthew Borman.
Sorry, just before we go too far past it, just to confirm, in the end of overs total, it should be the total runs that the batter scored and not taking into account losses for wickets?
Correct.
Okay.
We deal with the loss of wickets at the end. Now it may be, if you were doing this the other way round and you were adding the runs on to the bowling side, then you wouldn't know how many they'd got. They would have scored 28 at this point, not 228. So yes, we're not deducting these runs until the end. That's why we've got an extra column in the batting section for how many wickets the team has lost. So back to the new batsman, Jaden Armstrong. And Matthew Borman. And Jaden Armstrong is the wicket keeper, so you can put a mark in against Armstrong. You can put the dagger, which is the usual convention, or WK, WKT, something like that. Just mark that Armstrong is the wicket keeper. But we also have a change of bowler. Now that isn't compulsory when the batsmen change over. That's just how the fielding side are playing it. They could have changed the bowlers already by now, but they've chosen not to. So our new bowler is Matthew Anderson. So a change of colour and a new name in the bowling. Now, when a player is replaced as a bowler, you should draw a vertical line at the end of the bowler who is being replaced. And if there's any confusion, look back 2 overs in your end of over score. So this bowler, normally it would be the pink, they're going in alternate colours. So this bowler here that I'm doing in purple is going to replace the pink one. So I can draw a line. Now I would normally do this with a ruler, but I am doing it freehand today because I don't want to put a ruler in there and knock the camera. So I'm trying to do it as neat as I can, and I'm doing the line in the colour of the new bowler. So this line, this vertical line that I'm colouring in after Aldrin is in purple, so that if I look back at the score sheet, I can see exactly who replaced that bowler. So our narrative says that Armstrong is on strike, and on the screen we can see that the first 4 balls are dot balls. So we can write those in now. Dot, 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 dot in the batting, and the same in the bowling. Next ball, ball number 5, the batsman is out bowled. So once again we have our large W, so we can find it again. The legend for bowled I can see is B, so I'm going to put the B, put a dot to break them up, but in black in the bowler, I'm going to put a W because bowled is a bowler's wicket. The batsmen change ends, so this time Borman is on strike and the last ball is a dot ball, so I'm going to put the dot against Borman and the dot in the bowling, and we have a wicket maiden, so we join the dots. Try and do it quite lightly so that you can still see the dots through there and the wicket. And I'm going to write in that the bowler has taken 1 wicket for no runs. Some people write that the other way round. They write the runs first and then put the wickets afterwards. But we generally say that the bowler has taken 1 for naught, or in the case of Aldrin, 1 for 5. So that's the way I write it. Again, it comes down to personal preference, and you can do whichever way you like. It's the end of the over, so we've got no more runs. We're still on 2-8. But I can see quite easily, because I've done it in black, that there was a wicket in this over. So this is for 3 wickets, and it's bowler number 3. And just as a final check, I look in my how out summary, 1, 2, 3 wickets. That's okay. It all tallies up. We have another change of bowler. So replacing, if I look back in my end of over score, replacing the green person, Patrick Glenn, we have George Fole. So a red line down the end of the green this time. Now I haven't written in the bowler's summary yet, because each bowler could bowl 4 overs, so these bowlers may well come back later on. So I'm not going to put any of the summary detail in until the end. So who's on strike? Because Borman faced the last ball, but the batters have now changed ends. So we should have Armstrong back on strike. And ball 5.1, the batsman plays and misses and is bowled. So we've got 2 W's in a row for Armstrong and 2 bolds in a row for Armstrong. And a black W in the bowling. Again, don't worry about taking the -5 off. We do that at the end of the game. So they're changing over because Armstrong was out, so Borman back on strike, and you can see that the rest of the over are all dots, so 5 dots to go in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have another wicket maiden, so 1 for naught for Fole as well. Join the dots nice and lightly. Again, I haven't got my ruler. And the score remains on 2-8. But I've got a black wicket standing out very nicely in that box, so I'm adding 1 to the previous wicket total, and I've got 2-8 for 4 and bowler number 4. They're matching nicely all the way down the line. Double check, 1, 2, 3, 4 wickets. Next over number 7. So they're changing back ends. Armstrong is now on strike again. Matthew Anderson continues to bowl. And again, we've got 4 dot balls. So against Armstrong this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next ball number 5, the batsman run, the striker is out, run out by the bowler, and therefore the batsman change ends. So against the bowler, another W. And this time I'm putting RO in the how out column. And I'm going to put an R in black in the bowling. And the batsman change over. So ball number 6 in this over, the batsmen don't run and the umpire signals a wide. So against Borman, we have a wide delivery. Now wides, remember, are worth 2 in this match regulation. So 2 in the wides, even though they didn't run. And thankfully the score has moved off 2-8. I now have 2 wides, and I'm crossing things off in the accumulator with the same symbols that I'm using in the bowling and the batting section, which allow me to check on what I'm doing and find any mistakes that I'm making. So the plus, just 1 plus in the bowling column, and over on the right hand side that bowler has bowled 1 wide, so we'll put a little 1 in the wide column. Now that wide column is not very big, so we might want to write smaller than that, but I've gone with that size for the time being. Normally we would have another ball for the wide, but again match regulations say we're not, so it is the end of the over. That run out doesn't count to the bowler, so it's still 1 wicket, but 2 runs for the wide, so that bowler has now taken 1 for 2. End of over score, I've got 230. We did have another wicket, there was a black entry in that over, so that's 1 to add on to the total, making 5. Bowler number 3, a little check up here, 3, 4, 5. Correct, I've not got the right number of wickets. Over number 8, the last over for this pair, and it's George Foal. They happen to be going in 2 overs each at the bottom here. So ball number 1, no incident or score, and Borman faced the last ball of the over, so Armstrong is back on strike. So a dot ball to Armstrong, dot ball to Foal. Next over, the bowler's delivery is slow and high, so the umpire signals no ball. So this no ball is faced by Armstrong. I can get a circle underneath that dot. 2 for the no ball in this competition, a circle in the bowling. I'm going to circle 2 runs in the cumulative total, and a 1 in that bowler's no ball column, so that we can total them up easily at the end. The next ball 7.3, no incident or score, so we're still on Armstrong. The next ball, 7.4, the striker is run out and the batsman change ends. So I've got a big W in Armstrong because it's a wicket. How the wicket fell is run out. Switch briefly back to the black pen for an R in the bowling. And the batsmen switch over. So the last 2 balls in the over are dots, no incident or score, so they are faced by Borman. So we can get maybe 2 dots in under that wide. So that run out doesn't count to the bowler, so still 1 wicket, 2 runs for the no ball, so just as the bowler above, 1 for 2. So our over number 8 has moved on the end of over score to 2-3-2. Looking back in the over, we had 1 wicket in black to add to the previous ones. Bowler number 4, quick check, 4, 5, 6 wickets. So that's over number 8 done, which means that these players need to switch over. These 2 are coming off and the next 2 are coming on. So I'm going to rule that across. It's up to you whether you do or you don't. So this player had a lot of activity, no runs. So no runs, but 4 wickets. Borman, 0 runs, but also 0 wickets. Any of these, if you want to, you can leave blank. You tend not to leave the runs column blank because that just looks like you haven't filled it in. I have a tendency to fill these out, but it's up to you. So our next 2 batters are Billy Hadfield, who will take strike, and you usually put the striker in the next box down, and Jack Collins. There is a change of bowler, and the new bowler is Archie Bean. So Archie Bean, if I look back, replaces the purple bowler, replaces Anderson. So end of over, I'm colouring a blue line at the end of Anderson to say Anderson has been taken off and replaced by bowler number 5, who is Archie Bean. So Bean to Hadfield, first 3 balls back to dot balls. These young batsmen take a while to get settled in. Ball number 4, the batsman run 1, there's no signal. So 1 run, 1 off the accumulator, almost forgot it again. Ball number 5, the batsman run, but the striker is run out by the bowler, and the batsman change ends. So Collins was on strike. First ball he faced is run out. So that's an RO in the total. A black R in the bowling. And they change over, which means Hadfield is on strike, batsman run 1, umpire signals a bye. So I'm sticking with the legend, so I'm using a triangle facing upwards. You use whatever symbol you would like, but preferably put your symbol in the legend so we know it was 1 bye. I'm putting the same symbol in the bowling. I'm using the same symbol to cross the runs off the tally. That's the end of the over, so that bowler hasn't taken any wickets, that's a run out, so it's just the 1 run. So end of over score, I've got 2, 3, 4, but there was an additional wicket, 7 wickets, bowler number 5. Quick check, 4, 5, 6, 7 wickets, yes. Over number 10.
Just before you start over 10,
yes,
we're asking for some clarity on the single slash double slash situation. Is that's because the batters often come back in? Yes. So the single slash denotes that.
In a conventional box style book, yes, you would put a double slash for when a batsman is out, but if a batsman retires not out and can come back in, then I would put a single slash, as I have done here, to denote the fact that that's just a break in their innings and they can come back in. Now I've used a single slash here because they're not out at the end of their innings, that they're not going to come back because these pairs will bat on no matter how many times they're out. They have unlimited lives. So these players are not coming back. I could have used a double slash, but actually I think that most people who score pairs in this case wouldn't put a slash. It's just my tidy mind saying I'd like to end their innings or show that this is when their innings ended in some way.
So it's really to sort of keep consistency between the different styles of game?
Yes.
Okay.
I can see there is some other discussion going on, which I haven't been able to read in the chat window. Mike Arnold is saying there's
Yeah, I've sort of earmarked that to come back to it later because I think it's a bit of a deep topic.
Oh, okay. What to show on the scoreboard is very important. You're right, we'll come back to it at the end. So, over number 10, a change of bowler again, William White. It is in the match regulations that they all have to bowl, so you can expect all these changes of bowlers. So White is replacing Foal. Oh, it's a bit of a thick line. Should have had my ruler. And Hadfield is on strike. So first ball is a dot ball to Hadfield, dot ball to White. The batsman on ball 2 does not play the ball. The umpire signals a wide. So I'm going to put a plus sign under that dot. 2 in the wides. Remember, it's value 2. So I'm going to cross 2 crosses in the accumulator, a single plus in the bowling, and 1 because it's 1 wide delivery in that column on the right hand side. Third ball, the batsman run 1, so we're still on Hadfield, 1 run, accumulator, 1 run. 2 dot balls, they ran 1, so we're on to Collins. And on the last ball of the over, the batsman run 1, but the umpire signals a boundary 4, so ignore the fact that they ran 1, that's a 4 to Collins. So on the accumulator, 1, 2, 3, over the end of the line again, back into the other one for the last run, and a 4 in the bowling. So 4, 5, 6, 7, remember wides count to 2, 7 to the bowler. My total score hopefully is 241. No wickets fell in that over, so I'm putting the 7 in again. Some people would leave that blank to say nothing's changed, but I prefer to put the current total in. And on to over 11.
Just before you start over 11, Richard Merrick is looking for some clarity on how you write the bowler's figures.
I can see the question now. So Richard is saying, would I put 0-1? So, for instance, Archie's figures 0-1. Or actually, are you talking about George reversing those? Either way, I'll answer both the questions. If a bowler hasn't taken a wicket, then I don't write 0 for anything. I just write the total in. Some people do write 0- and how many runs the bowler has gone for consistency, so that you can see where the wickets lie. So the 0 turns into a 1 when a wicket's taken. I've never done that. I only ever put the wickets and the dash when a bowler has actually taken wickets. So that's sort of answer, but personal preference. If you want to put the 0- in, you can. With let's take one who's got a score here. So if we look at Aldrin, 1 for 5, some people will write the runs in first and then -1, because they're used to putting the runs first. And if we're talking about a total score, we say the runs first. We say a team has scored, in this case, 241 for 7. So if I were writing a team score, then yes, I would put the runs first. But with a bowler, you say they've taken the number of wickets first and then for a number of runs. So therefore, I write the bowler's figures the other way round. Again, personal preference. It's a little odd when you've got like 1 for 2. I think we can easily see that that bowler has taken 1 wicket for 5 runs. Down here, you're looking as to which way round they're going. So they've taken 1 wicket for 2 runs. But a lot of personal preference there. Michael Turner, just to be contrary, I've always put in the naught, and so has Clive. Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do. Personal preference. So on to over 11. Hopefully that answered the question. Over 11, the batsmen have switched ends, so Hadfield is on strike. I'm glad we've got the narrative because I have no clue, having chatted for a while, who was on strike. Archie Bean continues to bowl. So first ball, the batsman is out caught and the batsman change ends. So that's Hadfield with a W, a C in the type of wicket, change to a black pen for a W in the bowler, if you want to, and a change of ends. So Collins is on strike. Ball number 2, batsman run. Sorry, going back to the first ball, we don't need to worry about whether they crossed on the catch and who took the catch, because they're going to change ends anyway. So ball number 2, batsman run, the striker is run out. Again, we don't need to worry about whether or not which end they were run out, because the batsman change ends. So that was Collins. I'm going to put a W to indicate a wicket, the type of wicket, run out. This time I've got an R in black in the bowling. Ball number 3, faced by Hadfield, because we're back to the other batsman. And the batsman is out bowled, so the batsman change ends. Got a lot of wickets in this over. So Hadfield W, this time it's a B and a dot. And a black W in the bowling. We have Collins back on strike. And ball number 4, thankfully, we have a dot. Ball number 5. The batsman cannot reach the next delivery and the umpire signals a wide. So plus underneath the dot. Plus in the accumulator. Oh, 2 pluses in the accumulator. It's 2 runs for a wide. 2 in the wides and a plus in the bowling and 1 in the column of wides for that bowler. The next delivery and final delivery of the over, the batsman is run out. And now this says the batsman goes back to the striker's end, and it also says that it's the end of the over, so they don't need to change ends, which I actually find the 2 conflicting. So we'll think this through. Collins faced the ball, so I'm putting the W against the bowler, the batsman. Run out. So that's 3 run outs for Collins. I'm going to... I've missed a dot ball in my bowling. And I haven't got any Tipp-Ex with me. This is messy, but I'd like the ball to be in the right sequence. I do apologise. That's better. So let's deal with the end of the over before we worry about who's on strike. So at the end of over 11, there are 2 bowlers' wickets. So he's taken 2 for the wide, added to the 1. He's taken 2 for 3 in my workings. Over number 11, the total score is 2 for 3. Now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wickets in that over to add to the 7, which should give me 11, and it's bowler number 5. So I'm just going to do a quick check. 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. Yes, I've got 11 wickets in the how out column. But Collins faced that last wicket. So Hadfield would have faced the next ball needs to face the next ball. So therefore, they change over, but they only do it once. If they changed over for the wicket and they changed over for the end of over, Collins would remain on strike. But we need Hadfield to be on strike because it follows a wicket. Hopefully that makes sense. And thankfully, the narrative agrees. So White continues, Hadfield is on strike, and the very next ball, the batsman is out, caught, and they change ends again. So we've got a W against Hadfield, a C in Hadfield's, how out column, a wicket for White, and a change over to Collins. So we have 2 dot balls faced by Collins. The batsman run 1, no signal, so that's to Collins, 1. I could probably have snuck that in underneath, but I'm not going to. Fifth ball, the batsman is bowled, so that was after the single. Hadfield was on strike. He's had a lot of W's all in a row. So that's bowled in that column. Back to a W in the bowling for bowled. And the last ball of the over faced by Collins is a dot ball. So this bowler has 2 wickets. You add the 1 to the 7, he's taken 2 for 8 in my book. And at the end of over 12, I've got the total on 244. There were 2 wickets in that over. To add to the 11 we had before is 13, and it was bowler number 6. And it's the end of another 4 blocks of overs. So I'm going to put a line across those batsmen and I'm going to total their runs. 1, 2. Batsman scored 2 and was out 1, 2, 3, 4. That matches the number of run-outs 4 times. This batsman scored 5 and was out 3 times. And our final 2 batsmen, we have Kieran Peake, who is the captain, so I'm just going to write CPT. You could put an asterisk if you want to in the top corner, and William Duke. And we have a change of bowler. We still have our 7th bowler to bowl. So I'm using lime green to replace the dark blue. And that bowler is Daniel Lovell. Lime green not showing up very well, but it's going to have to do. Don't use light colours when you're scoring outside, especially not the yellow. Okay, Kieran Peake on strike. Batsman run, the umpire signals a boundary 4. Then it's a dot ball. Batsman run 1. We've got standard scoring now. So we can rattle through these ones because you all know how to score. So we have a changeover because of a single, and Duke faces the last 3 dot balls. So I make that 5 runs. End of over, we have 249. There were no wickets in that over, so still on 13, and it was bowler number 7. All very straightforward. So on to over number 14. We have a change of bowler. We have a bowler returning George Foal. And my entries for George were in red. So George is replacing William White, who was in orange. So a line against White. And Kieran Peake is on strike. Dot ball for the first ball. The batsmen run 2. I'm remembering the accumulator now. Ball 3, the batsman run, the umpire signals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same batsman on strike. Ball number 4, no incident or score. Dot ball. Batsman run 1. I like this pair. There's no wickets fallen. And the last ball, faced by William Duke, is a dot ball. So again, standard stuff. We can move through that fairly quickly. 4, 5, 6, 7. Batsman still has 1 wicket, added to the other 2 to make 9. End of over score, I've got 2, 5, 6. No wickets fell. It remains on 13. Leave it blank if you want to. Bowler number 4. Moving on, we're getting through these overs now. So over number 15, change a bowler to Matthew Anderson. That's, in my book, was purple. So purple replaces lime green. Quite a nice combination, purple and lime green. I would have liked those two to bowl together. Scorer's nightmare when the pink and the red bowl at the same time. Not a good look. So Matthew Anderson bowling to Kieran Peake. Bowler, the striker is bowled, therefore the batsman change ends. So a W, you're getting used to this I'm sure now. A W against Peake. He was bowled, so a B in the how out column. I'm using black. It was Anderson bowling, so that's a W in black for Anderson. They've switched over. Duke is on strike. Ball number 2, no incident or score. Ball number 3, batsman run 1. 1 on the total. Oh, I didn't put the dot ball in the bowling. That's what happens when you do it quickly from a narrative. Ball 14.4, the batsman run 2. There's no signal from the umpire. We are back to Peake because there was a single. So there's a 2. There's a 2. There's a 2. Ball number 5, no incident or score. Dot. I'll try and remember that in the bowling this time. And ball 14.6, at the end of the over, the batsman run and the umpire signals a boundary 4. So that's 4 to Peake. Going over the end of the line again. So a fairly simple over, 4, 5, 6, 7, but there was a wicket, so that bowler has taken now 2 wickets. 4, 5, 6, 7 added to the 2s, 2 for 9. Our end of over total, I've got 2, 6, 3. Hopefully you have too. There was a wicket in that over. There's my black W standing out nicely to add to the 13. So this is a bit odd, different from normal scoring, because they've scored 263 for 14. So we'd normally not get past 10 wickets. However, in pairs you can get a lot of wickets. Final over. Ooh, we've got some extra boxes on the screen now, but we'll follow them through one by one. Looks like an exciting over. We've returned to Archie Bean, which in my book was blue. Blue replacing red. Archie Bean had a few wickets in his overs before. So Bean to Duke. The batsman run, but the striker is run out. Batsman change ends. So there's a W. There's a run out. And there is an R for Archie Bean. So they've switched ends. Ball faced by Kieran Peake. The batsman run 1, no signal. 1 run, 1 on the total, 1 in the bowling. Ball number 3, the batsman run, but the striker is run out again. So this is Duke. Another W. Another run out. Another R in the bowling. Back to Peake. The batsman run 1, no signal from the umpire. Bad move actually, batsman, because we've had a couple of run outs from the other end. But anyway, single. Ball number 5, thankfully no incident or score, so Duke is a dot ball. Ball number 6, the batsman does not play the ball and the umpire signals a wide. We'll do the wide like normal first. There's a wide, there's 2 in the wides, there's 2 crosses on the accumulator, and a plus in the bowling, and 1 in the column for the bowler. But it is the last ball of the the last over of the match, and therefore the ball does need to be rebowled as we would have in a normal game. So therefore, that's what the note says on the following box. As this is the last over, the ball is rebowled. So our final ball is a dot ball. So for the bowler, still 2 wickets, 2, 3, 4 added to the 3, making 7. 2 for 7 the bowler finishes on, and I've got the final total as 267. There were 2 wickets in that over to add to the 14, so 16 wickets, and it was bowler number 5. So let's look at the batting summary first. Let's do the final totals for our batsmen. I'm not going to put lines across because they didn't come off the pitch as such. They didn't end their innings. They were the ones remaining at the end. 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20. Excellent. He scored 20 and only out once. Our other batsman scored 1 and was out twice. So now we're going to fill out all the totals boxes at the bottom of this box. So let's total up the extras first. 2 no balls, 2, 4, 6, 8 wides. In value, 1 leg by 2, 1 by 2 leg bys. I make that a total of 13, which I'm going to put across in the extras column. If I add up the batting runs, 22, 26, 28, 33, 53, 54. We've got a column to add in the starting score, which in this case was 200. So we need to add all these together. So 54, 13 and 200 makes 267. Which thankfully is what I've got crossed off my accumulator. So that balances. But I need to add up how many wickets were lost. 1, 2, 6, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16. Which agrees, thankfully, with my total in the end of over score. Another balancing figure. So underneath my 267, I've got a line that says less wickets times 5. So 16 times 5 is 80, I believe. Minus 80. So if you take 80 from the 267, you end up with a final score of 187. And if there's any discussion, as I think there was earlier, about what you put on the board, that's what I would be putting on the board. Depends what the scoreboard actually says. Some scoreboards say first innings, in which case I would be putting 187. But if it says to win, I would be putting 188. But I don't score pairs very often. So I think that you should take more notice of maybe Alison, Steve and Malcolm, or anybody else who might be commenting.
So what you've started towards here is the big discussion topic of the chat, which is, when writing the total, do you do it including runs lost for wickets, or do you just put the runs accrued?
When writing the total, or when displaying the total? So
there was some back and forth, but we're talking about the scoreboard, I think.
Right, on the scoreboard, personally, I would be putting 187, because that is, in this instance where we're deducting the 5 runs, that is the final score of this batting side. If you are playing the other version of the match regulations where you add to the other side, then I would have to put 67, because we wouldn't have added the 200 in, and we wouldn't add in the value of the wickets, because you don't know them until the end of the game, and we're not going to keep running out and adding 5 on every time a wicket goes down. Does that make sense? But I think what you need to do is to agree with the team managers, because if these are, or the captains if it's an adult game, but otherwise the coaches and the managers, I would go to them and say, what would you want on the board? But in this case, where we're deducting them, we know what the final score for Monford is. It's not going to change, because we're not having penalty runs in these regulations. So it's going to be 187. That's what I would put on the board. I don't know whether there's any chat about what other people would put.
There hasn't been for a little while, although both Malcolm and Alison have weighed in a little bit again. No.
Okay.
And Steve.
What I've shown now on the screen, you can still see mine where I've added it up, but I've put Alison's beautifully handwritten score sheet for her first innings total up there as well, just briefly. Now what we're going to do is to do the bowling summary. So complete the bowling summary where you've got the overs and the maidens and the wickets. So 2 overs, no maidens, 5 runs, 1 wicket. 2 overs, no maidens, 21, no wickets. 3 overs, 1 maiden, 9 runs, 2 wickets, 1 wide. 3 overs, 1 maiden, 9 runs, 1 wicket, 1 no ball. 3 overs, no maidens, 7 runs, 2 wickets, 2 wides. 2 overs, no maidens, 8 runs, 2 wickets, 1 wide. 1 over, no maidens, 5 runs, no wickets, no wides. Now at the bottom of this particular sheet there are no balancing boxes, but if you do a quick tally of the runs, 26, 34, 43, 28, 63, that comes to 63, 64, 65, 67. I'm only adding on the byes and leg byes because the wides and nobles are already included. Gives me 67, and the 200 that we started with gives me 267. So I'm quite happy that that all tallies up. And there is Alison's model answer for you. Now, where would you go from here? Well, I recommend that you print the narrative for yourself and you score the second innings. So get some more practice in and score that second innings. And then compare them both with Alison's model answers. They weren't available up to now for you because I didn't want anybody just copying them out. So I will put them up there tomorrow. Might be later tonight, but tomorrow more likely. So you will be able to score the second innings and compare it with with Alison. Now, I would be quite happy to repeat this session in a future week where we would use the app instead of the paper, because there are a lot of people using Play Cricket Scorer for scoring this. Now, I'm led to believe that it doesn't always work out who's on strike in the correct manner. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, so you need to keep an eye on it. But I think it would be quite a useful session for those who are planning on scoring pairs to give the app a go. So yeah, we will give that a go unless people say not. So do put in the chat window whether or not you'd like that and how soon you'd like that, whether you want it next week or you want something else next week, and we'll do it in a couple of weeks' time. But then, if you are going to score pairs cricket, you need to decide how you want to score it. Are you going to use paper or are you going to use the app? Now, this score sheet that Alison has provided is fairly generic to any format of pairs cricket. It doesn't matter other than we've got 8 players, but if you had 6 players you could ignore the last 2 boxes, but there are no limits put on how many overs the pairs are batting for. Whereas some people's score sheets that they've designed themselves have limits on them. But what I do want you to show you are a couple more examples, because I've said point 5, design your own. So make a score sheet that meets the regulations that you are going to be scoring. So I'm just going to show you 2 more as an option. This is Malcolm's score sheet, Malcolm Doody, who's in the chat window. And it's a sort of hybrid between a box and a linear. When I first saw it, I had no idea what I was going to do with it, couldn't get my head around it, but I can now. And I think it would be really good to use, but you've got to study it quite well. So we have over on the left-hand side a blue area where we put all the batsmen's names. There's enough for 10 here. We can see that the regulations that Malcolm must have been scoring were 4 block overs as well, because here are our first 4 overs. So the bowler's name goes at the top of over 1. And the entries in the first over are split between batsman 1 and 2. So it's like one big bowling box, but you put the entries into the different boxes depending on who faced them. That's why I say it's hybrid. It's a little like box and linear. And underneath at the bottom of there, you've got a box for adding up everything at the end of the over. So you've got total runs, the byes, the leg byes, and you would write them in here as they happen. So you've got all the extras, and then you total them up at the bottom. So the runs plus the extras, the total runs and the total wickets lost. There is nowhere that I can see that you'll put in how out, but I guess you could put either a W in here, or you could put the C or the RO or the B, I don't know. Maybe you don't need to know how they were out, so you're just putting W's in here for wickets. And then when they change over, you drop down, you write 2 more names in the blue area, and those 2 face the next 4 overs. And the totals are over on the right hand side as normal. Total runs, total number of times they've been out, and there's a column for balls excluding extras. Oh, you do have a tally. Malcolm obviously scores the type of cricket where you add the runs to the opposition rather than taking them off, because this starts at 0. And then we have the totaling up area at the bottom where you total all the runs. So you total the runs, you total the extras, and then it says wicket total from the other innings times 5. So if the other innings lost 10 wickets, then we would be adding 50 in here and creating a final total. You would have to work out the bowling figures from their bowling figures above here, but on page 2, which I'm not showing you on here, on page 2 of Malcolm's, this is a spreadsheet, it does have another box for helping you to add up the bowling figures for each bowler. But what I do like about this is Malcolm has colour coded it, and here it says in yellow, these are the entries that go on the summary page, and in blue, the ones that go on the scorecard page. And that is information that you transfer to play cricket. So when you're putting your result in, you look in the yellow areas for everything that goes onto the play cricket summary page, and you look in the blue boxes for everything you need to type in on the scorecard page. So I quite like this. I didn't have a clue when I first looked at it, but now I can sort of understand it. I do quite like this. And then the final one that I want to show you is a linear score sheet. This one is has come from Steve Forecast, whose name you will also see in the chat window. So Steve has obviously been doing 2 over blocks. So we've got 8 players again, possibly, but they are going in 2 blocks. So here you write the batsman's name at the top here. So you have the 2 opening batsmen left and right, as you do in linear. The bowler's name goes under where it says pair 1, and you have 6 blocks under batsman 1, 6 blocks under batsman 2. You know you're only going to get 6 balls in the over, so you will write the 6 balls under which batsman they face. And so if this is a single off the first ball, then the next ball, you leave that one blank, the next ball goes over here in this block for batsman number 2. We have grey areas where we have the total runs in that over, the cumulative runs and the balls faced in the 6s and 4s for that batsman as they go down. And then a run in total at the end of the over for the runs and the wickets. Again, nowhere to put how they were out, but I'm guessing you don't need that, so you just have a W in here when they are out, and you total up how many wickets have fallen accumulatively as it goes down. And these ones then batted for 2 overs, they swapped over, we have a block for putting a new batsman's name in, and you can put a different bowler's name in as you go down. We have a bowler's stats column where you can keep the bowler's cumulative totals going in there, again as you would with linear. And again, this is similar to Malcolm's one where you are adding on the totals from the other innings. So down at this bottom here, you would get a run-in total. So the last box would have the final total from the batsman and the total of wickets. In here, you would put the number of wickets times 5 from the other innings, not from this one. So this would be wickets times 5, and then you could add them on. I guess actually if you were playing the take off 5, you could still do that there, but you could do it either way there. So I quite like this too, but you must be able to linear score to understand this one, so it would have been harder to do for everybody today, and it was written out in 2 over blocks. So those are just some examples of things that you could do, but hopefully that's just given you an insight into what it's like to score pairs cricket.
We're running quite long on this one, so we will wrap up, I think, in just a second.
Yeah.
Yes. But before we do, I think it's worth highlighting a couple of points from the discussion based on the things we've been talking about. The first is talk to your umpires and other people who are in pairs, because it's largely used for children.
Yeah.
Your umpires and things tend to be parents, so talk to them and tell them what you want, what you need from them as an umpire.
Excellent.
Talk to them about the signals so that you know that you're on the same wavelength as them.
Yeah.
Secondly, when it comes to that discussion about how you write runs and wickets and the orders and what you write and that sort of thing,
yeah,
there's a lot of personal preference, but the key thing is just be consistent.
Yes, absolutely.
Choose what you want and be consistent with it.
And we say that throughout the whole of scoring. Whatever you do it the same way.
And when it comes to the scoreboard and cumulative total and that conversation, partly discuss with the team managers, because ultimately what they want is really what you should be going for. But also that actually the scoreboard isn't necessarily your job.
No, it's most definitely not your job, but yes.
So the best course of action there is probably just focus on your scorebook and making sure your score is right and consistent, and leave the scoreboard to other people.
One thing that I have learnt whilst doing this is, I think in pairs cricket, I won't say it's irrelevant who's won, because it is a competition, and the children or whoever's playing it will play it competitively. But I think that you don't always know who's won until the end, because you're taking those wickets, multiplying by 5 and either adding them on or taking them off. And so I think what you've got displayed on the scoreboard is not as important as it is in an adult game, where every run is just accumulating, and they need to know in those final run chases exactly how many runs they need to win. I think the game is not played like that. So in pairs, they're just batting as well as they can, and then you work out at the end who's won.
Somebody, I think it was Scorer Verifier, made a similar point along those lines.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I hope we had some new people tonight, because the pairs cricket is scored by a lot of parents and a lot of people who don't always score in the adult game in the same way. So hopefully we can reach out to a lot of new people. And as a scorer tutor, I get asked when I'm teaching new scorers, I get asked about pairs cricket a lot, because that's where a lot of new scorers come from. They might not stay as scorers all the way through, but there's a lot of people desperate to learn how to score to support their children when they're playing. So I think it's really good for tutors to understand pairs scoring and how it's worked. And thank you again to Alison for her beautiful scoring and providing the narrative. She did most of the work for tonight, so thank you, Alison, and also to Steve and Malcolm for their input and their score sheets. And thank you very much.
And I've just checked back. Sorry, it wasn't Scorer Verifier, it was Steve Forecast.